I'm president of the Webby Awards. I'm coming to you live from our offices in New York City, and I want to say welcome and apologies for the few glitches that we had on the back end there. I'm lucky that we have great producers to get us up and running when we run into some glitches. We are so excited to have you join us today. Today, we're hosting the second event in our Way to New event series, which is focused on exploring the unprecedented explosion of online innovation over the last few years, which is facilitating more connected and impactful digital experiences. At the Webby Awards, we're always inspired by projects that have a real impact and use technology to make a difference. And today's event is focused on a project that does just that. Fingerspelling.xyz is an experience that uses machine learning to help people learn American Sign Language, and we are so excited to learn more about this project. So today we're doing something a little different. We have never done this before. We are talking to both sides of a project. We're speaking to the client for Fingerspelling.xyz and the agency. So the client is the American Society for Deaf Children, and Hello Monday is the agency, and I'm so excited to learn more about the project with them. If you haven't experienced the site, we encourage you all to take a look and have a play. You can do just that at Fingerspelling.xyz, and I think that the link should be on the brand platform, but if it's not, somebody will put it in the chat for you right now. So let me introduce you to our guests. We have Sherry Dowling, who is the Executive Director for the American Society for Deaf Children and is the Coordinator of Family Support and Resource Center at the Maryland School for Deaf. Sherry has worked for more than 25 years helping families navigate the special education process and providing parent support. Sherry serves on both state and national committees that supports families with deaf and hard of hearing children. And we also have Anders Jensen, who is a founding partner and the CTO of Hello Monday in Copenhagen. And he has been working in digital for over 20 years. And of course, Hello Monday is a creative studio that makes digital and magical ideas, products, and experiences. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
We're so excited to have you. When we found Fingerspelling.xyz, I have to say, I think we spent an inordinate amount of time playing with the website and learning the ABCs in American Sign Languages, but for viewers who are unfamiliar with the digital experience, why don't you talk a little bit about fingerspelling and what it sets out to accomplish? Sherry, why don't you start?
So fingerspelling is really part of American Sign Language, and fingerspelling is if you use it if there's a word you don't know a sign for, if a lot of words don't have signs, so you're going to use fingerspelling for that. So it's an integral part of the language itself.
And what made you start the project? How did you conceive the idea together?
I can talk a little about that. I think, we at Hello Monday, we do a lot of time where we kind of play with new technologies, and machine learning technology that you can do in the browser today has, in a very short amount, come a really long way. And one of the things that we experimented with was hand tracking. So we did a lot of different prototypes, and we kind of played with the technology to see if we could find any interesting use cases. And we, playing with hands and so forth, then we came across fingerspelling as being a really interesting use case. And then we started to play with how that could work, and we created, different kind of prototypes. And I think what we learned was there was something extremely natural about being able to, see your fingers on the screen in real time. You can call it AR or what you want to do just with the webcam, and then being able to overlay these kind of markers on the fingers and then help show you, for example, if I were to do a certain letter, like, am I having the fingers in the correct position or not? So giving this kind of real-time feedback on the hand, felt very natural, kind of in a one-to-one interaction. And we kind of played more with that technology, and then we talked to Cherry and the American Society for Deaf Children, and they were in on the idea. So that's how it started.
Sherry, why don't you give us a little bit of context about the other options for people to learn sign language?
Sure. So we know that the majority of deaf students, they're going to learn how to use ASL in their school setting. Most deaf children are born to hearing parents. Um, so we also know that the majority of those hearing parents really don't know sign language. They're learning with their child as their child grows. So the majority of children are going to learn throughout school once they enter school. If there's a deaf child that's born to a deaf parent, they're going to have that ASL exposure from the time that they're born. That's going to be their first, that is their first language. And that's usually the first language in the household. So they're going to be signing from the very early stages, from the very time that they're born.
What are the consequences of delayed language on a child's life, both educationally and socially?
It can be devastating for a child. Really, we know that deafness is a very low incidence disability, and there's discussion whether it's a disability or not a disability. But we know that there's usually 2 to 3 babies that are born that are deaf or have some kind of a hearing status out of every 1,000 babies that are born. And about 90% of these children are born to hearing parents. And it's because a lot of these hearing parents don't have sign language, and sign language is not introduced to a child necessarily at a young age. A child may experience that language deprivation. And that language deprivation is going to, it can be devastating. They don't have language. It could be for the first 3 or 4 years of their lives sometimes. Because of that, they're going to be delayed when they go into school. Sometimes they catch up, sometimes they don't. So, with the American Society for Deaf Children, we really encourage families to sign and to give their children language at that very early age. I don't know that we will ever completely prevent language deprivation, but we really are trying to reduce it as much as possible.
Wow, that's amazing to get to 3 and be behind in language must have such a devastating consequence on your education going forward.
Absolutely.
So, we've been talking about innovation over the last six months or so, and technological innovation, and fingerspelling experiments with machine learning to help people learn ASL while correcting their finger positions in time. It's incredibly kind of interesting and fun to play with it. It also gives people a percentage indicating how close they are to signing each letter correctly. And as we'd love you to talk us through the technology behind the project and the process to prototyping it.
Yeah, sure. So kind of the main feature of the site, as we also talked about, is the hand tracking. And that's using actually an open source library. It's called MediaPipe Hands. It's also called Hand Post. So it's kind of exists in 2 different variations in case people want to play with it or do something similar with it. And it's very easy to get set up and started with. And it's, that it is machine learning. So all of those things are always a little bit heavy on the computer side of things, but it is, surprisingly performant, and it's very good at detecting, the fingers, even, if there's some of the fingers you can't see, it's very good at kind of making a best guess on where those fingers are placed as well. So from a technology perspective on that side, I think that's very impressive and easy to use. And so that's kind of what's doing most of the heavy lifting. And then from kind of our side, the most time consuming thing here was to figure out, well, we have the data from the hands and we know the hand positions. How do we match that up with the letters and do a detection where it kind of says, well, this hand position is correct for that letter or it's wrong for that letter, and how we kind of make that. So we set up a rule-based system for each of the letter, and that also kind of looked at the rotation of the hand. Some of the letters you have to rotate your hand slightly to get right. And then we looked at each of the fingers position. And so that was like a very manual process, and that required a lot of trial and error. And I think, we looked around and tried to learn how do you do the different letters, and that was actually hard to find out. Well, what's the right letter, and how do we make it, learn people something that's right. So we had an ASL professor involved as well, who kind of helped us kind of say, well, this is how you do that sign or that sign. So that helps us a lot. And then there's like a 3D hand element in it as well, where we used a WebGL library called 3JS.
It's unbelievably easy to use. The onboarding is incredibly easy, and then it's just very easy. It's very intuitive to use. What approach did you use to ensure that the experience was easy for people of any age? And was it important? Why was that important?
Yeah, I think we spent a lot of time with on the design side as well. Of course, trial and error, as we talked about, but making sure that people could understand it, because there is actually a lot of things going on. You have your hand and the 3D markers. You have a 3D hand. You have a letter. You have words that you need to understand as well. So we tried a lot to kind of simplify it, and did a lot of work on that composition of the whole screen, where you have your own hand on the webcam, and then you have the 3D hand here, and having those kind of, well, you need to follow this hand and do the right thing over here, and you kind of spend a lot of work on that, and especially, as you say, it's very intuitive, when you start using it and put up your hand, like you just start going. But we also kind of experienced that people would just start to kind of mimic that 3D hand that you had on the screen without really understanding, what am I doing? Am I learning anything? So we spend a lot of time kind of figuring out, well, the actual letter that you're spelling, how do we place that? So that has a very prominent kind of in like centerpiece in kind of the middle of the screen, to make sure that people understood it, because we tested it on a lot of people, and they were like, well, yeah, I'm doing something, but I'm not learning what letter I'm doing. I'm kind of just completing a task. So that was kind of a challenge. And you mentioned, of course, that it, it will be great that, or it's great that both adults and kids can use it, and it's really fun to see how adults approach it versus kids. So the adults are a little bit more, well, something's going on the webcam. What is it? I'm going to try it out. They're a little bit more insecure, and okay, they try it and then they get it. Whereas I have two kids myself, but they just go to the screen and then it's, oh, there's a hand, there's my hand. Yes, I understand what I'm doing. Like that, their understanding of it. And I think, that they're just like, well, of course I can see my hand. Of course there are markers on it. It's much more natural to them. So I think that's also kind of fun to see, and see how kids approach it. And I think that um, that was just great to see, because if kids can use it, then it becomes much more approachable.
That's the point. It's very easy. It's also very free for anybody who wants to use it. Was that a conscious decision for you both, to make sure that it was anybody was able to access it?
Yeah, yes, I think, this was started out as an experiment and something we did for mostly for fun, and then it turned out to be a project that we could do together. So I think for me, it's just great to see that, we found something where you can use technology in a new and interesting way, and it actually has a practical use case. I think it's easy enough to do, things that are just fun, and that's also good. But here there's actually something that some people can benefit and learn from, and I think it's great that as many people as possible can try it. Yeah.
Sherry, I'm sure that many of the people in the audience saw the recent viral video of the swim instructor. I'm not sure if you saw it. The swim instructor that went viral by saying hello to the toddler in the pool and learning how to sign their name. That struck me as, it's very emotional video. And then I Googled viral deaf swim instructor, and hundreds of videos came up. So evidently there's lots of viral moments that happen in relation to the deaf community. It would be incredible if everybody learned how to speak sign language. How do you envision a digital experience like this being used in education for both hard of hearing and hearing students?
Honestly, I mean, it's so much fun. When Anders showed it to me and I used it, it was just so much fun. And I think the families that we've shared it, I mean, we've shared it all over, and the families that have used it, the kids that have used it, they love it. They absolutely love it, and they've had fun using it, and that's a big part too. If it's something that's hard, that is difficult, people aren't going to use it. But because it is so much fun and it is so easy to use, it's being used quite a bit. Um, but I see it being used in classrooms to reinforce. I mean, obviously, it's fingerspelling is part of the language, so it's not going to replace an actual ASL class, but it reinforces what you're using. So with ASDC, when we do our sign classes online, we're giving our students the link to the fingerspelling so they can practice their fingerspelling and know whether or not they're doing it right. So I see that happening all over. So I think that that's going to be, a big part of the school. It's giving the kids that reinforcement. It's giving the parents the reinforcement that they're doing things right, and they can do it together, which is also, there's always a little competition sometimes between the students and or their children and the families to see, well, wait a minute, who can do it better. So I think that's a really great thing.
That's so fun. And as you came up with a project through R&D, is there any other projects or any similar applications of machine learning that you've been thinking about, or other ways you could use the technology for something similar?
I think there's a huge potential in doing machine learning for a lot of things, and of course you're seeing a lot of things out there as well, and that's happening. But I think one of the things that I find especially interesting is this whole aspect of this, as I think we did in fingerspelling, is this, the visual learning, that you get this real-time feedback and you can see yourself or something happening on the screen, and you get this one-to-one interaction and feedback. And I think that can help, speed up kind of the learning for many different kind of skill sets, especially ones that require some kind of physical interaction.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible, and to be able to think about this technology being used, as the technology grows as well, is quite exciting. Sherry, what's next for ASDC? How do you hope to continue your push out innovation and products like this, and to continue to educate those on the importance of learning sign language?
Well, we're always looking for new ways to encourage families to learn ASL, to bring new technology. I think about my son when he was born. My son's 27 now, and we were excited to learn ASL using VHS tapes. And you think about how technology has changed in just 20 years or so, even in the last 5 or 10 years. And you know, just to be able to bring something like this to our families is amazing. And we're looking forward to working with Hello Monday on possibly a future endeavor, and bring something else that's new and different and fun. So technology is technology, and I'm really excited to see where we're going to go.
Mobile products, does it work on mobile?
No, this, like, fingerspelling doesn't work on mobile. And like, the main reason is just the whole thing about holding your phone and doing this at the same time. Is a little bit hard because you kind of need to hold this camera still. So we kind of just disabled it to make sure that people had a better experience and a better learning experience, instead of being, frustrated. So you can say, yeah, we blocked some users from using it, but we are doing it with the best intentions.
Yeah, it would be hard. It would be hard, but maybe that's the next product together.
Yeah.
And as what's next for Hello Monday? We've always are watching Hello Monday and seeing what you're up to and all the amazing work every year. So tell us what's next for you all and your team.
Yeah, I think I think it's been like doing fingerspelling, like it's been I think a great learning experience. I think we learned a lot about hand tracking and so forth. And like while the hand tracking is extremely good, there is always room for improvement. So I think one of the kind of the projects that we're playing with doing is doing something where we kind of, how can we make the hand tracking even better and kind of bettering that machine learning experience, so it becomes even faster, becomes more accessible to more people, and that more people can kind of build out that technology as well. So we're kind of building out a site that's about crowdsourcing images just of hands. So you come into a website and people can donate their hands to make them publicly available, so other people can then use them to make hand tracking even better. So there will be a open and public data set that people who do machine learning can take and hopefully make hand tracking even better, so we can come even closer to making some kind of interface or experience where we don't just learn fingerspelling, but maybe you learn more of the ESL language.
What is that database up and running yet, or you're working on it?
We're still working on it, yes. So we'll see when that gets done. It's kind of like a one of those experiments. So we do it when we have time. So, but I'm hoping it will be out sometime this year.
You'll have to send it to us so that we can encourage our audience to participate as well.
Yeah, we'll do.
Emma, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes, we do. I sent through a question, I believe, from Jose.
She's not
Have you
hearing me, I think. All right. Well, Emma.
Hi, do you hear me?
Oh, we've got one interesting question for you both, although it just disappeared. Emma, can you Slack it to me? Do you mind slacking it to me? Okay. Have you encountered issues with diversely melanated skin? From Jose.
Can you repeat the question, sorry?
Is there issues with different colors of hands?
No, we haven't experienced that. I know I think we or tested it on a lot of different skin colors and so forth. But I can't say if I know there's like a on the open source data set, there is like a where you can see what skin colors and so forth they tested it on, and they did it on a big variety of it. But of course, also as that new, if we make that new open source hand data set, then I think that's also very important that it becomes very diverse and we get all kinds of different hands in there as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it sounds like your project's going to help it.
Hopefully, yes.
I think that might be our one question. Well, I'll just quickly wrap up here. I just want to say thank you both to Anders and Sherry. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. It's an amazing website. I really encourage everybody to go and check it out. I have to do this since I have you here. Our extended entry deadline is coming up on February 11th. This is your chance to enter. So if anybody wants to reward their team, we encourage them to enter the Webby Awards at webbyawards.com. I want to say also a quick thank you to our sponsors, YouGov, WP Engine, and BrandLife for your support for this program. And thank you to the audience. Thank you everyone for joining us today.